Hi everyone, my name's David Hurst. I'm a wellbeing coach and the author of 4 positive recovery mental health books. Today I'm going to talk about gratitude. It's a massive subject. It's one of the things when people come asking me for help that I talk about initially, almost straight away, because such as depression and anxiety cannot coexist alongside gratitude. I once mentioned this to a friend of mine who's a very smart guy, who's a published author, and a few days later he got back to me and said, I've been thinking a lot about what you said and I cannot prove it wrong. The reason is that gratitude and depression and anxiety cannot coexist alongside each other. You cannot be depressed if you're focusing on what you're grateful for, what you've got to be grateful for. Now, how I came about discovering this was a guy I asked for help at the start of my recovery, thankfully many years ago now, said to me to write a gratitude list just before I went to bed at night. And he said, get a pen and paper, write it down and start each sentence with the word I'm grateful for. No dittos, no shortcuts. This is what I pass on to people to help them now as well. And he said, write down 10 things you're grateful for. I said at the time, I've got nothing to be grateful for. My life seemed to be a complete mess. It wasn't too good anyway. And to put it mildly, he said, have you got a roof over your head? I said, yes, I'm sleeping on a mate's sofa. He said, okay, put that you're grateful to have a roof over your head. And then he said, have you got food? I said, yep. And he said, okay, put that down. And then a bed for the night. And I said, well, it's a sofa. He said, okay. And it's worth bearing in mind here, we take so much for granted in our lives. But if you've got a roof over your head, food in your fridge, and a bed or even a sofa, you are already in the luckiest 25% of people in the world, because a lot of people haven't got those 3 things. So it's likewise, if you've got money in the bank or even some money in your pocket, you are in the top wealthiest 10% of the population. If you've got your good health, which was another thing I put down every day on my gratitude list now, we have to remember there's 1 million people die every week from an illness, and that was before coronavirus came along. So if you've got your health and you're not really struggling and suffering with an illness, you need to be grateful for it. The other things I put down are usually nearly every day I will put down about the health of my family. I'll put down I'm grateful for family, and I name them. If you name your mum or dad or brother, it's good to name them. And also I'm grateful for my children and grateful for my wife, and name them. Grateful for friends, name them. And so they're big things, roof over your head, food on the table. I also include small things sometimes, things that are relevant to the day, things that might have happened in the day. I can even turn this around to say things such as, if I was waiting for a train that was late, I will think, well, I'm grateful to have a public transport system, because many countries don't have public transport systems. You can turn around and just things in your day. If you bump into an old friend, include them. Or if you happen to see a beautiful sunset, include that. You can put small things as well. If you're watching this, you're grateful for whatever device you're watching it on. If it's yours, or if it's a friend's or someone else's, you're very lucky to have this technology. Also, I include things like a pen to write with, paper to write on, my shoelaces. I take them for granted often, or I certainly spent most of my life taking them for granted. And yet, if I was walking around without shoelace and my shoes were flapping about, I'd know about it. And write these down. It's really good. Do it, just before you go to sleep, or thereabouts. And then in the morning, when you open your eyes, first thing I always do is I say, I'm grateful that I can open my eyes and see. And then read your gratitude list. And it's a good, positive way to start the day. I always advise people to do a half-hour meditation as well, rather than starting the day jumping around thinking of all the things they have to do and being attacked by the terror, bewilderment, despair and frustration at the end of their bed, and read through that gratitude list. And what this does, scientifically, I think it's been shown that we have certain pathways, neural pathways, and it's going to start to make a positive one easier to go down and the negative one more overgrown. And a lot of people, when they come to me, and I was there as well when I sought help in 2000, at the start of 2002, it's the other way around, and their positive neural pathways are completely overgrown or almost blocked, and the negative ones are nice and slippy and easy to get down. So that's where they go. Now, a lot of this has come from childhood. First 8 years of your life, as I mentioned before, we're really getting wired throughout your childhood, and until you leave home you are as well. And often this has gone back generations and generations. This is not to get any resentment towards your parents. We imitate people, and what we get taught behind closed doors of our home is what we do. It's only later in life sometimes we question that, and often that's as a result of such pain that we have to stop and say, well, this isn't working, and listen to another point of view. It's also worth bearing in mind that the human brain is very undeveloped, still growing when it's born. I mean, humans are born a lot sooner than most animals, in that it's about 12 months until we can walk, whereas if you get such as a foal, it's walking within hours, and also can feed itself certainly within days, if not hours, whereas a human, we're still dependent on being fed for many, many months. So we're completely dependent, and that brain is still growing, and it's affected by the environment it's in as it grows and develops. So if you're in a household where there's a lot of rage, a lot of arguments, maybe some form of abuse, then it's going to affect the growth of the brain, and it's also going to affect the wiring. But even if you grow up in not such a traumatic household, you're getting wired, and you're listening to those godlike figures that are your parents. And a lot of families, and certainly a lot of people that come to see me, have grown up in a household where the immediate focus is on lack, what they haven't got, what can possibly go wrong. In fact, the first question in the household, and this can go back generations, I always say it can go back to when your ancestors were living in caves. The very first question can be, what can possibly go wrong, to any idea or suggestion, or it's a variant of what can go wrong here. And the mind immediately goes on all the possible negative consequences and impacts. And that's where you can go as an adult, and that's behind a lot of anxiety and depression, although there's more to it than that, but it's certainly part of it. If you've been taught to focus on lack and what you haven't got, and negative, worst case scenarios, that's where your thinking often goes. Now, you will have positive thoughts. You will have thoughts that say the question, what could possibly go right here? You will have a focus at times on the abundance and the love and the hope in the world. But these tend to be super fleeting, and the main focus will be on what you've been taught, which is the negative, the what can go wrong, the focusing on lack. And the word lack, want is related to word lack, and it's very interesting, I think, there. And then you get abundance is connected to a word meaning to do with water, and lack is also, I think, to do with, if you look at it, the etymologies, it's all to do with the connection of imperfection. And if you look at the opposite of that, perfection, perfect means to be complete. And that, for me, is what a lot of recovery is about. You're recovering how complete you were when you were born, and if you hadn't been damaged or cracked or shattered or completely broken as you grew up. So there's the gratitude list. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. Definitely do it before you go to sleep at night. Definitely read it first thing in the morning. But if you find that you're getting negative thoughts, you're feeling down, you can do it any time of the day, or evening, or night even. Wake up in the middle of the night. Sometimes you have to fake it to make it. You have to force yourself to do it, even when you're not feeling like that. This is just making those positive pathways more well-worn and easier to go down, you will find over time that you will start to go down them automatically if you do this enough and every day and maintain that and are disciplined about it. So it's a fantastic, easy tool really, but you have to work it. If you work it, it works, and if you don't, it's not going to work. And bearing in mind that if nothing changes, nothing changes. I think there's an abundance to say on gratitude. It's just a fantastic tool to have, and I'll leave this as a brief one there. I hope that helps. Hi, a little bit more on gratitude actually. This was a realization I made that was quite phenomenal to me actually. Last year or the year before, my youngest son's birthday in June, we got him some presents. He was so abundantly grateful. He must have said thank you 10, 15 times. Subconsciously, I thought, that's so lovely. I'm going to get him another present. Now, I think giving out gratitude is like that, really. I believe in a higher power, a greater force at work, creative intelligence. I can call it God as well. Whether you do or not, I think it's to know that there is an abundance out there. I believe life is a gift that we've been given, and if we show gratitude for it, whatever is behind our life force will give us more, in much the same way that I just told you there with my son. And think about it yourself. If you gave two friends an identical present and one of them was full of gratitude and said thank you a lot, and you could see they were really happy, and yet the other one just kind of mumbled a thanks and put the present down and walked away, well, you're going to be much more inclined to give a gift to the grateful friend than the ungrateful one. And I think it's exactly the same here, exactly the same principle. I always say to people, when we give, we gain. The moment we give, we gain. Many people have it the wrong way around. Their needs are unmet as children, and so they're trying to grasp things in, all sorts of things. This can include drink, drugs, relationships, sex, gambling, money, work, things, they're trying to grab stuff to fill this emptiness they feel that's come from the failure of love, usually in childhood, and that void. It's the wrong way around. We need to give. Humans are created to be selfless and to give, and when we give, we gain. And I think that's the principle that works in the world at large, in the universe. If we give out gratitude, we're going to gain. Also, of course, if you want to look at it scientifically, you've got those positive and negative neural pathways, and the more you focus on positive things, the bigger they get. Anything we focus on will grow, whether that's negative or positive. So, and there is the power of belief. As a man or woman thinks in their heart, so they will be. Or as Henry Ford said, I think it was, said something like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. The power of thinking is massive. And of course, gratitude, whether you read that out or think it, they're words. Words are very powerful. They create the world we live in. Everything you look around that's man-made has started with thought, words, and then it's become a reality. And I think it's the same for us. We know about the positive psychology in football and other sports. You may be physically the most talented player in the world, but if you don't believe you can win, you're less likely to win. If you go onto the pitch thinking, I'm going to lose, you're more likely to lose. It's like people who are terrified of falling over for whatever reason. And if they walk around thinking, I'm terrified I'm going to fall, they're much more likely to fall. It's putting a message out, I think. It's putting it in your mind. Now, gratitude is, in terms of psychology, it's relatively newly looked into since the start of millennium. Really, most of the focus used to be on what was causing people to get in distress states, or what caused their suffering. In actual fact, it's the wrong way around, really, because I think you need to know that, as I said before, if you're grateful, you cannot be depressed at the time you're grateful or anxious. Gratitude beats those away like light pushes away dark. Exactly the same way, it cannot not do. You can't shine light into dark and it stay dark, So it's been looked into very recently in psychological terms. 12 Steps to Recovery has used gratitude for a long time, as have organized religions. Gratitude is a big part of it, of giving gratitude to God or Allah, or whatever the higher power is called. And to remember that, we're given a gift here. I really, really believe we're all given a gift of life. We're all here for an amazing reason. And all those things like depression and anxiety, although they serve a purpose, if we pay attention to them and look at what they're telling us, i.e. that pain gets the attention, and then we have to know, as with any pain, as with physical pain, we need to do something different. It's exactly, humans are amazingly intricate beings. We're not going to have emotional or mental health pain for no reason. Doesn't make sense. Whatever created us is too smart for that by far. And it's just the same as if I hold my finger over a candle flame, I'm going to feel pain. And I move it. So I move it. I do something different. I change. If I tried to ignore the pain, or masked it even, numbed it with some drink or drug, for example, the pain is still going to be there, just maybe I can't feel it. It's also going to be getting worse as my nervous system is trying to tell me to do something differently, to move. It's going to spread the pain, and the wound is going to get bigger, if I do finally move it. If I don't, it's just going to, in the end, there's going to be nothing there where my hand was. And emotional mental health pain is exactly the same. The resistance is very often the biggest and certainly the long-term problem. If we go into the anxiety or the depression, and you will need help from someone who knows what they're talking about with this, I think quite vitally someone who's experienced it as well and come out the other side, then you will know it's telling you something. It will be teaching you something. I believe we live in a loving, abundant world that's trying to help us. This can be very difficult. It's something I discover with people who ask me for help often. They have grown up in a household that focuses on negative and lack, and they think the world is out to get them in some way. Certainly the people in the world, there's not a lot of trust. I like to say to them, let's turn this around, because if you look around, it's a loving and abundant world. Most people are fantastic, and the planet's an amazing place, and you're here for an amazing reason. Let's find it, okay? And we need to deal with such as depression, anxiety, or addiction, or whatever the mental health or spiritual sickness condition is, because they're getting in the way. They are blocking you from becoming your greatest ideal. And one of the very first things I think, okay, everyone I help, you have to go back into look at childhood and histories and resolve things that have happened, traumas, etc. But initially, one of the first things is, let's get you steady. And gratitude is a massive, massive part of that. There are other things that people can do. I'll talk about them in another video. But I hope that helps. And keep listening, and have a look at my website as well if you haven't. And if I can help anyone, please get in touch. Thank you.